Are you one of those wondering about the difference of studying here in New Zealand and in the Philippines? I'll be sharing with you this information, and at the end of the video, you'll get to know more about how it is to study here in New Zealand. If you're new to my channel, welcome! And if you haven't subscribed, click that button to get to see more of our experiences and to get more informative videos about living here in New Zealand. And if you've subscribed, thank you very much. Maraming salamat po. Hi guys! Welcome to our vlog. Kamusta kayo? Ito na naman, another informative video. And before I begin, I would like to apologize for not being able to upload a video sooner than today. Kasi ang dami kong commitments, medyo na busy sa work, things like that. Nevertheless, I am here today, ready with another topic to share with all of you. So when I did post a video with regards to AEWV update, I have received questions. One of the questions was the difference between the education in the Philippines and here in New Zealand. So, nagtanong si Sachiko, shout out, hello! Thank you very much for all your comments. You've been pretty interactive and I love it. Thank you very much for your suggestion to make this vlog. And then I also received questions about, can you bring family to New Zealand when you apply AEWV? For now, these are the questions I will be focusing on to answer sa vlog na to. And please, disclaimer lang po, these are all based on my research from the immigration website. And also, I had a telephone call to an immigration officer. So, tumawag ako ng immigration hotline. Nagantay ako ng mga 20-something minutes before ako na-connect sa call center agent to ask on how accredited employer work visa holders can include their family in their application or their travel to New Zealand. According dun sa immigration officer that I've spoken with, pwede sila mag-apply ng work visa in relation to the AEWV holder who is considered to be the principal. For your kids, you can apply student visa, dependent visa. I inquired, will they be considered to be domestic or international students? Now, the person I spoke with said, as long as they will be attending primary and secondary education, then they will be considered as domestic students. But if they will be studying at a tertiary level, they would need to apply for a fees-paying student visa. Meron sila ditong early childhood education, primary school, secondary school, and then higher education and training. ECE or early childhood education can be provided either home-based or your child attending an ECE providing center. Usually, tinatawag yun na daycare dito or kindy. And for children who are less than 3 years old, you receive a subsidy. May part ng fees na sinashoulder ng government. But if you have a child enrolled in a daycare center who is 3 to 5 years old, then you receive free ECE for 20 hours every week. Wala kayong babayaran, it's all free. Here in New Zealand, you can either enroll in an education institution or you can also have the option to homeschool your children. Schooling is compulsory from 6 years old up to 16 years old. And by law, students couldn't leave until after their 16th birthday. And here, most children stay at school until 17 years old. There are 3 types of schools here in New Zealand. The state school, second is the state integrated school, and the last one is private schools. State schools, yun yung funded and owned by the government. If your child is enrolled in a state school, which is usually attended by students here in New Zealand, you don't need to pay anything. So wala pong bayad, it's free, and also secular, meaning non-religious. State-integrated schools naman have their own aims and objectives that are reflective of their own values, philosophy, and religion. So, under the state-integrated schools are Catholic schools and Montessori schools. Both state schools and state-integrated schools follow the national curriculum. But the difference is, sa state integrated schools, you are required to pay attendance dues. So, depende po yan sa school kung how much. If you would convert it in Philippine peso, it wouldn't be so expensive compared if you send your child in private schools in the Philippines. Mas mura pa siya. Like, when my daughter was still in the Philippines, I think the tuition for grade 1 back then was around 70 plus thousand. Ngayon, she is in a state integrated school, in a Catholic school, and we only need to pay $545 for the whole year. So, hindi siya ganun kabigat if you compare to Miriam, Ateneo. But it's really up to you because most of the kids here in New Zealand goes to a state school. And of course, ang private schools na napakamahal. Very few students are enrolled in a private school. They don't follow the national curriculum. They have their own programs. Also, parents are charged with school fees. Upon my research online, their tuition fees are around 20,000 New Zealand dollars a year. The education system here in New Zealand has 13 levels. Merong primary school from years 1 to 8. And there is secondary school, which is from years 9 to 13. Let's talk about primary education. It starts from year 1 up to year 8. There are contributing education centers or schools that only provides years 1 to 6. If your child happens to be enrolled in this type of school, then they would need to enroll in an intermediate level school to complete years 7 and 8. Pero may ibang mga schools naman na nag-offer ng full primary, which is from years 1 straight to year 8. Now, let's talk about the secondary school here in New Zealand. Ang secondary school nila is yung tinatawag sa atin na high school. They call it high school here as well, or college. This is from year 9 up to year 13. And when you reach year 11 to 13, meron silang tinatawag na NCEA. That stands for National Certificate of Educational Attainment. NCEA is the main school leaving qualification in New Zealand. And this is accepted by majority of employers here and also overseas. NCEA is also a stepping stone to employment and apprenticeships, or if you'd like to go on with further studies. Let's move on to higher education and training. Aside from university, there are 3 other options if you'd like to go ahead with higher education and training. First is vocational training, where you do study about a certain trade, profession, or job. And then another one is yung apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is a formal arrangement where you can learn about a job from an expert while working. So if you're an apprentice, ibig sabihin, nagtatrabaho ka na, sumasahod ka nun, and then you are learning from someone who has been a professional in the job. So another one is the on-the-job training, where you learn as you work. Now, when you plan to bring your children here in New Zealand with you as you work, may 2 types ng students dito sa New Zealand. Meron yung domestic student and international student. Depending on your work visa and depending on the guidelines of the Ministry of Education, your child will fall onto either category. Who are considered to be domestic students? These are New Zealand citizens, residents, permanent residents, and student visa holders based on temporary work visa. Ibig sabihin po, if you are holding a temporary work visa, though meron pong exemption dyan, nasa website po ng Immigration New Zealand, enumerate po doon, then domestic student, wala pong babayaran as long as nasa primary and secondary education sila. Now, let's talk about international students. At the primary school, ang babayaran nyo po ay roughly around $11,000 a year. And if they are enrolled in a secondary school, it is roughly around $14,000. And kung nasa private school sila, mga $25,000. New entrants is the term used if your child is starting education, which is around the age of 5 and 6. So some students, they don't wait until they are 6. Minsan after their 5th birthday, they can already enroll and start attending primary school. Some schools let your child start at any time, while some observes cohort entry. So they start in school in groups at the beginning of each term. For example, you've enrolled your child with previous schooling. Kunyari, transferee, ganun yung terms natin sa Pinas. They are allowed to start anytime, and yung entry nila is based sa age. What are the school hours here in New Zealand? School starts at 9 a.m. until mga 3 o'clock or 3:30. But for early childhood education, centers can actually start as early as 7 a.m. Kasi dito sa New Zealand, guys, bawal iwanan ng bata unless they are 14 years old. Bawal iwanan sa house alone. Kailangan merong adult na magsusupervise sa kanila. But then, if your child is at least 14 years old, then they can be left alone at home and can look after their younger siblings. So, another information yan, guys, if in case you plan to move here in New Zealand. So, here in New Zealand, there are 4 terms. Diba sa atin, merong 4 quarters na tinatawag. Then, there's a fortnight break between the terms. Then, they get a 6-week summer break at the end of the year. Normally, school starts here in the month of January. Usually, katapusan ng January at the end of it. So, what's the difference between studying in New Zealand and in the Philippines? New Zealand schools are well equipped with internet and technology. Also, they do promote cultural events, outdoor play, and sports. Very big thing talaga yung sports dito, guys. Meron silang iba-ibang sports na hindi ko pa na-try before na nalaro na ni Gabi. Meron din silang outdoor education. That means they go on camping. Enjoy na enjoy yung mga bata dyan. So, they go on camping. They have this event, yung cross-country. So, dito sa amin locally, they run in the hills. And they also promote taking care of our environment. So, meron silang mga planting activities sa school, ganyan. So, in most New Zealand schools, they do promote the Maori culture. I have asked my daughter kung anong tingin niyang iba sa pag-aaral dito sa New Zealand versus pag-aaral sa Philippines. And I've also asked a co-mother. Thank you very much for your input, Michelle. Tanong ako sa kanya kasi yung anak niya nasa boys college. Ibig sabihin nasa high school. Yung sa akin kasi nasa primary pa. One difference is more subjects in the Philippine curriculum. Totoo yun. As in, di ba sa atin ang dami, may hele, may health, may science, writing, mga ganon. Medyo basic sila dito. Like, meron lang silang math, meron silang technology, meron silang writing, meron silang reading. Ganon lang. Parang IELTS exam lang. Ganon lang. But then, these subjects actually cover a wider scope. So, dito sila, ang learning nila is mostly on creativity, writing, and most of the time, group work. This is in primary school. So, they are taught about the basics of life. Tinuturuan silang maging, a good team player. And then they're also taught to socialize. And parang more on personality building yung primary school. That's how I observe it. Parang binibuild nila yung students to be the best. Parang ganun. Sa atin kasi, di ba, very aral. Ang daming homeworks, projects, quizzes, exams. Dito, hindi. As in, hindi. Kaya sabi ko dun sa anak ko, ang swerte. Because they are very, very away from stress. Unlike, I remember before, alam mo yun, ang daming project, assignment, deadlines, mga ganun. Plus, in the Philippines, you know how other parents value awards. So, meron dyan yung mga talagang kailangan mag-aral sila para makakuha sila ng award. Mga things like that. But dito, it's very simple. Hindi ganun ka-big deal sa mga award. Simple lang. As in, certificate lang. Nakaprint lang sa paper. Ganun. So, yun yung isa sa mga difference. And then, another one is they use computer and technology. So, I'm pretty sure when you go to the Philippines, sa mga private schools, lalo yung mga expensive ones, they are using the same way of learning and teaching and communicating. So here, they are provided with laptops that they can use, and then teachers would communicate with students via Google Docs, Google Classroom. May ganun-ganon. Dati kasi diba sa atin, like manual, you really need to write it on paper, ganon. Their homework, hindi sila big fan ng homework. I remember growing up in the Philippines, there's always homework. Parang very rare yung day na you'll go home without any homework. But here, it's pretty common na no homework. When it comes to discipline sa school, is different compared sa Philippines. And here, by law, you cannot use physical force to discipline children. So, ibang-iba. Ang consequence nila dito, for example, kasi meron silang playtime kung tawagin sa school. One consequence would be no playtime. Ganun lang. So, light lang sila, and then, hindi sila ganun ka-strict. Na talagang parang matatakot ka sa teacher mo. No, hindi sila ganun. Another thing is, I think this may not be a difference, but, ang uniform dito, guys, super mahal. Super mahal. Si Michelle, yung nag-share sa akin. So, yung list, yan ang binili niya for, maybe because clothes here per se is expensive. Nasabi ko na yun sa vlog ko before, di ba? Mahal yung shopping dito sa New Zealand. And then here, mas ina-encourage nila yung nagbabaon ng food yung mga anak. Kasi di ba sa Philippines, if you go to, kunyari, private school, may cafeteria. So just make sure, guys, you contact the school to know more about the enrollment process kasi iba-iba yan. Hoping to see comments down below. Until our next vlog, thank you very much for your support. Maraming salamat po. That's it for now, guys. I hope you've learned something from me again. Take care always. Bye for now.